Meet Mia. Mia is a Year 9 student who is physically more mature than her peers. She excels in sports and visual arts at school. She liked math and science, but now often complains of forgetting class content and not being able to keep up. Mia does not seem to have a large group of friends, but does have two close friends that she spends a lot of time with. We noticed Mia is often preoccupied with her phone in class and at school, looking distressed after checking her phone. One of her close friends has mentioned that Mia is the target of cyberbullies. Other staff members have mentioned that she sometimes doesn't show up for class. She has a supportive home environment, however her parents have very limited English language skills and are struggling financially. She has said that she actually wants to do well at school and hopefully do visual arts at university, but just needs more help. From Mia's story, we can deduce the strengths and deficits we can work with to help her. She excels in sports and visual arts, like math and science, has close friends, a supportive home environment, and can be motivated by goals. On the other hand, she may be dealing with the negative side effects of pubertal timing. She's distracted in class, forgets content, and truants. She also experiences cyberbullying and financial difficulties at home. So what can we do about it? We know that Mia is experiencing some developmental issues. These include biological early maturation, memory and cognition problems, and experiences of cyberbullying. Early maturation for girls and bullying can also impact her self-esteem, which explains issues like truancy, technology dependency, and cognitive problems. Her family comes from a low SES background with linguistic barriers, which makes it harder for them to communicate with the school. We have also made inferences that Mia works part-time to help with finances at home, which impacts her sleep, cognition, and schooling. In order to manage these developmental issues, we have come up with 3 interventions to expand on. Number 1, peer-to-peer, cost-free tuition programs. 2, recommending her available resources for counselling support. 3, discussion or review of phone policies and expectations at school.
Early maturing females and cyberbullying. Physical changes are a driving force behind adolescent behavior, and pubertal timing plays a role in this. Adolescents are very conscious of their bodies and how they are changing. According to Staten and Magnuson, early maturing girls are more likely to experience body image issues. They are also more likely to be short and bigger in build, be involved in delinquency, substance use, and early sexual activity. Mia's apparent distress after checking her phone is worrisome. The root cause to this may be a result of multiple confounding factors, including cyberbullying, which can impact her self-esteem, as adolescents are very focused on peer perception. This can impact self-concept, emotional development, and distract her from schooling. Recommending counseling resources such as in-school counseling and online resources can be beneficial to put Mia on track for school support and help her identify the positives of early maturation, such as her excelling in sports, better equipping her for resilience against cyberbullying, financial stresses, and discourage truancy. Cognition, memory, and distraction. We can understand Mia's memory problems can be understood with information processing approaches. The process of learning is dependent on the conversion of memory from short-term to long-term memory. We know that the working of the short-term memory holds 5 to 9 elements of information and processes about 2 to 4 pieces of extrinsic information at once, while the long-term memory represents a repository of knowledge schemas holding information acquired over a lifetime. This information is considered intrinsic load. Mia also experiences distractions with phone use in class along with other contributing stressors, as well as sleep deprivation from working at night and financial stressors. These can all impact her cognition during school. Information, which would usually be of low-element interactivity, now becomes extraneous load on top of these stressors. As she begins falling behind, she may also be lacking the skills to scaffold for the gaps in her knowledge to retain new information, falling more behind. Mia is experiencing cognitive overload. we must consider reducing Mia's extraneous load to help her retain information. Due to language barrier, Mia's family are unable to help her with homework. Financial factors indicate they are unable to pay for tuition. Peer-to-peer tuition can offer scaffolding and skills to reduce extraneous load without further financial stresses. She is likely to participate as she has goals to do well in school. Counseling resources discussed earlier may also be beneficial. Discussion of phone policy with Mia can assist in setting class expectations to ensure that she is able to reduce wasteful load.
Mia's incessant checking of her phone can be linked to social media technology addiction. This can also impact self-esteem, especially with negative feedback such as cyberbullying, discussed earlier. If the bullying occurs in the school too, this can explain behaviours of truancy. Financial strains and language barriers can also impact parental involvement in Mia's life. To alleviate her family's financial burden, Mia also works casually after school. Combining this with her overuse of technology at night, this distracts her from sleep. Mia's inability to perform at school has closely linked to sleep problems, which reduces her ability to perform optimally. As discussed earlier, peer-to-peer tutoring can provide Mia with learning support without added financial stresses, which can motivate Mia by bringing her closer to goals of studying art at university. In addition to this, it would be great if Mia could be offered some extra tutoring in the school ecosystem by participating teachers. Counselling can also assist with guiding Mia to be more responsive to accepting help. As someone fluent in technology, Black Dog, eSafety Commissioner and other digital resources can also be recommended. A combination of these strategies would act to support Mia, harnessing her inherent motivation to do well and study visual arts at university. However, there are advantages and disadvantages to these strategies. Cost-free tuition and scaffolding support. Pros: solution-based and easy to adapt for Mia, who can be motivated by long-term goals. Cons: this requires more time dedication from Mia, which may contribute to her cognitive load. There's also a dependency on school resources and availability and willingness of peer-teacher participants. Additionally, this strategy does not deal with social and emotional learning. Recommendation of available resources for counselling support. Pros: covers the broadest number of identified issues and focuses on student well-being. Cons: does not necessarily address the academic element and relies on Mia turning up for counselling and school, as well as more dedication requiring more cognitive availability. Discussion or review of phone policy or expectations at school. Pros: deals with unhealthy behaviours impacting cognition and social well-being, as well as the perpetuators of cyberbullying. Cons: requires a broader whole-school approach to implement if addressing any policy changes. Does not take into consideration whether Mia will adhere to these rules and disciplinary actions if required.
My name is Michelle Zhang. This unit has taught me that adolescent development, behaviour and well-being is determined by a range of social and biological factors, such as puberty, neurological developments, relationships with family, peers and teachers, school and social environments, and with growing impact, technological influence. The Wellbeing Framework for Schools views student wellbeing as being determined by building connection to learning and emotional self-awareness, fostering success through respect, and enabling students to thrive through purposeful learning. This also involves engaging parents to work with the school to build a cohesive learning environment where students are motivated, engaged, and empowered. Examples of challenges to student wellbeing and safety include factors such as pubertal timing, peer influence, family environment, drug and alcohol abuse, technological distractions, cognitive overload, bullying, self-harm, and other risk-taking behaviours fueled by an overactive limbic system. The group method of support can be engaged for concerns relating to student experiencing bullying, mental health issues, drug and alcohol abuse, as well as risk of self-harm. Given that adolescents have higher emotional responses to peer perception, it's imperative to respect students' privacy, autonomy, and trust when involving parents, carers, and counsellors. The information processing model of cognition, Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, and socio-emotional learning are strong influences in my inquiry-based teaching philosophy. In my KLA, Design and Technology, Inquiry-based activities allowing for self-creation of a design brief can motivate adolescents by granting autonomy of choice and the chance at mastery experiences, for better self-efficacy and exploration of self-identity and their own interests. This also helps to differentiate for students, ensuring optimal engagement at all levels. Additionally, design process recording can assist with design thinking and understanding individual creative processes, and also build knowledge schemas for long-term retention. I can also introduce a group task to integrate multiple briefs to engage students in design thinking about planning for adaptability, and also engage their socio-emotional learning and group scaffolding. Through cooperative learning, to reinforce knowledge schemas, as well as to assist transfer of knowledge to long-term memory banks. This unit also offers a wealth of knowledge about adolescent development and behaviours, which can be translated in practice when differentiating for individual students as well. Thank you.
My name is Prachi Shukla, and my teaching philosophy echoes one of the teaching standards: know your students and how they learn. I believe every student should learn something new every day. This unit has given me an insight into key concepts that help me to understand how adolescents grow and develop, both biologically and cognitively, that will help me to get better results with their learning. In terms of key concepts, cognitive load theory gives an understanding how information is processed. During learning, information is first stored in the working memory, which after being processed sufficiently is moved to long-term memory. Working memory can only store a limited amount of information at once. If it is being overloaded with lots of information, it becomes overwhelmed and loses some of the information. John Swela argued that cognitive load can be managed in students by instructional design. In my KLA science, most concepts require high element interactivity. For example, in physics, understanding Newton's second law of motion could lead high cognitive load on students' working memory, because they have to understand the concept, relationship between the terms, and the formula. So in order to manage students' cognitive load, it is beneficial to start with the content they already know, simplify the terms, and use examples from daily life to which they can relate, like riding a bicycle, and then using the formula in number of worked example. Approach like this can help students manage their cognitive load, and this will avoid overloading of information. Student well-being and safety is teachers' responsibility in a way that early intervention can prevent unmanageable student anxieties. For example, a student might have anxiety due to several factors like unable to finish his assignment on time. Well-being framework for schools provides teachers to connect such students to well-being advisors or counselors at school and giving them directions to use self-help websites.
Hi, my name is Emily. This particular unit has given me a much better understanding of how to deal with and support a student who may be experiencing certain factors impacting their educational success and physical and mental well-being. This could include puberty, neurological developments, relationships with family, friends and teachers, school or home or social environments, and technological advancement influences. One of the teaching standards is to know your students and how they learn. I would say that this is the most important standard when teaching students. My particular KLA is music, and this particular discipline can require a mastery of playing instruments and theory. Part of my teaching pedagogy is to be able to provide an experience that a student may not have necessarily had before, or for students who may not even be interested in music outside of the school environment, more specifically for students in the lower stages in secondary school. I noticed that while on my practium that there are a number of factors that affect students' well-being and safety, which also influences their academic outcomes. What I saw was mentioned to me by my mentor teachers and definitely mirrors a number of the factors that were expanded upon in this unit as mentioned earlier. It was quite an eye-opener as I was learning about it in theory and it's incredibly relevant in practice. So it's important for me to have strategies in order to support these students in well-being and safety, as well as understanding their home environments and work together with parents and other teachers and professionals to give the best opportunity for these students. Some strategies may include using multimodal classroom resources to further explain certain concepts to students, as well as to help engage the students. Giving individual encouragement and critiques regarding their playing ability is also something that I would include. As music is often a subject that students may not have had any experience in before, particularly for lower stage levels, it is also important to not cognitively overload them with the information. Some strategies I could use is to be able to use specific language to help the students understand certain concepts, providing examples that help the student understand it in practice, and also giving the student a brain break, something that I learned in the staff room, by breaking up classroom activities, such as by doing some theory, and then allowing the students to do some practice time, and then moving on to another activity. In my prac team, as mentioned earlier, I noticed a number of students who have been dealing with certain factors that may be impacting them. A particular example from my experience was a student who was questioning their sexuality and also dealing with pubertal changes like a voice cracking. I believe that by using a certain language of encouragement to realise their potential is important, as well as providing a supportive environment as they are questioning their sexuality and the changes going on. And also providing resources for the student to maybe help understand what they're going through. I want to make my students feel like they aren't an anomaly, and giving these students the best opportunity can only help set them up for the future ahead.